When I met my wife's parents for the first time, her mom threw wine in my face and said, "That's to disinfect a poor man. Her monthly expense is $140,000. My wife laughed, so I smiled and said, "I'm canceling all business with your company." The waiter had barely set the wine glasses on the table when the first insult came crashing down. Literally. Red wine, dark and expensive, splashed across my face and shirt. For a moment, the restaurant fell silent. All eyes turned toward the immaculately dressed woman across from me, my wife's mother. She sneered as she lowered her glass with dramatic flair and said, "That's to disinfect a poor man. My daughter's monthly expense is $140,000. You think someone like you can keep up?" The wine stung my eyes, but not as much as what happened next. My wife, Emily, didn't rush to defend me. She didn't gasp in shock or scold her mother. No, she laughed, a rich, hollow laugh that didn't sound like the woman I had fallen in love with. She even added, "Oh, Mom, you're terrible," as if this were all some inside joke I was too lowly to understand. That was when something in me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't retaliate. I simply picked up my napkin, wiped my face, and offered a small smile. Then I looked directly at her father, Richard Carrington, the CEO of one of the largest supply chain corporations on the East Coast, and said in a calm, icy voice, "Mr. Carrington, I'm terminating all contracts with Carrington Holdings effective immediately." He blinked. "Excuse me? I'm the sole managing director of Hayward Logistics, your primary distributor. You mock me for being poor, but I've been personally overseeing the handling and transportation of your goods for the past 6 years. Starting tomorrow, I'll be reallocating our assets and freezing all shipments." Emily choked on her wine. Her father paled, but I wasn't done. I stood slowly, pulling out my phone, and with a few quick taps, forwarded a termination order to our legal department and logistics team. "Consider your warehouses isolated and your supply chain frozen until you find a new distributor. Best of luck finding someone who can do it at my rate, especially during the holidays." Then I turned to Emily, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw her as a stranger. I ignored the warning signs, but tonight, thank you for the clarity. I buttoned my jacket, dropped a few bills on the table, not for them, but for the server, and walked out. I didn't need to raise my voice. My revenge had already begun. The morning sun lit up my penthouse apartment like a spotlight. I didn't sleep much, but not because of heartbreak. No. I spent the night with my legal team, and every minute had been a calculated move on a chessboard Emily never realized she was standing on. By 7 a.m., my phone buzzed violently on the kitchen counter. Caller ID, Richard Carrington. I let it ring. Then came a flurry of texts. "Richard, let's be reasonable. Richard, this affects thousands of workers. Richard, you don't want to make this personal. Richard, we can offer you a revised contract, higher rates." I took a sip of my black coffee and replied with one sentence. "This became personal the moment your wife threw wine in my face and called me poor." 2 seconds later, the phone rang again. This time it was Emily. I answered. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Why did you laugh?" I asked coldly. There was silence. Then, "You embarrassed my family." "No, Emily," I said calmly. "Your family embarrassed themselves, and you stood by them. You mocked the man who built you the life you flaunt." She tried to play the victim. "It was just a joke. You know how Mom is. She's toxic, but I expected better from you. I gave up everything to build a future with you, and you repaid me with mockery in front of strangers. We need to talk about this. There's nothing left to discuss. Oh, and by the way, your apartment lease ends next week. The lease is under my name. I already canceled it this morning." Her voice cracked. "Wait, what?" "I'll send a moving company to help you pack. Consider it my final act of kindness." "Are you kicking me out?" "No," I said with a smirk. "I'm just giving you the freedom you so clearly wanted at dinner." I hung up. That afternoon, the financial news broke the story. Carrington Holdings supply chain freezes overnight amid contract termination. CEO scrambling for alternatives as stock slips. Their company had no alternate logistics provider lined up. Worse, the holiday season was just weeks away, and delays meant millions in losses. And while they scrambled, I was already in quiet talks with Carrington's biggest competitor, Langford Global, offering them premium services at a slight discount, just enough to devastate Carrington's fragile empire. And that was just the beginning. 3 days after the confrontation, Carrington Holdings was in freefall. Their biggest retail clients began pulling contracts, afraid they wouldn't meet holiday demand. Richard's cost-cutting strategy was now bleeding millions by the hour. Warehouses were overflowing. Trucks sat idle. Delays turned into cancellations. Meanwhile, Langford Global, my new partners, issued a press release. Langford secures national logistics expansion through new strategic alliance. The industry knew what that meant. Richard Carrington was finished. But I wasn't done. The moving truck pulled up to Emily's luxury condo on Friday. She stepped outside in designer heels and a silk robe, horrified to see a crowd forming, watching as movers packed her boxes labeled property of Mark Ashford. She ran toward the driver. "You can't do this. I live here." He handed her a clipboard. "Ma'am, your name's not on the lease. Orders are to clear everything before noon." As cameras from local tabloids began flashing, someone had tipped them off. She turned and saw me across the street, arms folded, calm as ever. She stormed over. "Did you call the press?" "No. But I'm not surprised they came. After all, your mother said you were worth $140,000 a month. Shame you can't afford a motel now." "Mark, please." She softened her tone. "We've been through so much." I raised a brow. "Do you remember what you said at dinner?" She paused. "It was a joke. You laughed." I cut her off. "And your mother treated me like dirt. Now you get to feel what that's like. Then I handed her a red envelope. She opened it. Inside, a notice of divorce filing, a waiver of spousal support, and a summary of prenuptial enforcement, airtight, ironclad, and already executed. You'll hear from my lawyer Monday, I said. And one more thing, don't contact me again. You're no longer part of my future. That weekend, the Financial Review ran a headline, From Mock to Magnate, How Mark Ashford Crushed Carrington Holdings in a Week. The online comments lit up with praise. Hundreds of professionals previously humiliated or mistreated reached out. Some just wanted to say thanks. Others wanted to work with me. Emily? She went radio silent. Her mother was photographed trying to enter the Carrington HQ lobby. Security turned her away. Richard's board voted to suspend him, pending investigation. My quiet revenge had become a public spectacle. 3 weeks passed in silence. The world had moved on from the Carrington collapse, but Emily hadn't. She had tried calling, emailing, even sending handwritten letters. I ignored every attempt. I didn't need closure. I'd already built something better. But then came the final card. It was a Thursday morning when my assistant buzzed me. Mr. Ashford, there's someone here demanding to see you. Says it's urgent. I sighed. Name? Emily Carrington. I stared at the speaker for a moment. Tell her. She's already inside. I turned toward the door just as Emily burst in. But this wasn't the confident woman I once knew. Her makeup was smudged, her designer coat wrinkled. She looked desperate. Mark, she gasped, out of breath. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I ask. I leaned back in my chair. You have to. She blinked. Her voice cracked. I made a mistake. I let my mother influence me. I thought I could trade up, find someone who matched the image she built for me. But I was wrong. Was that before or after you emptied my accounts? I asked flatly. Her lips trembled. I didn't know you'd cut ties with the Carringtons. When your contract pulled, everything crumbled. Richard's gone. The house is gone. My mother's gone to live in Italy. And me? I've got nothing. I folded my arms. So now you want me back? She nodded. I know I don't deserve it, but I realized too late that you were the only one who ever treated me like I mattered. Not my money, not my image, just me. I stared at her for a long, hard moment. Then I stood and walked to the sideboard. She followed me with her eyes, hope flickering. I pulled out a folder and set it on the table between us. This is the best I can offer, I said. She opened it. Inside was a waiver of contact, a restraining order application, and a bill for the remaining damages she'd caused, now owed to my new firm for breach of NDA, property damage, and fraud. She looked up, pale. I told you never to contact me again, I said coldly. You had your luxury, your better man, your perfect image. You spat on the life we built. And now I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. Her knees buckled. She fell into the chair, shaking. Security will escort you out. If you ever show up here again, I'll file the order. As the guards arrived, she tried one last plea. Please, Mark. I still love you. I met her eyes with steely silence. No, Emily. You loved control. You loved money. But love? That's earned. And you threw it away. They escorted her out. As the door shut behind her, I returned to my desk. Outside the window, the skyline glowed in the morning light. A text came through from a colleague. Lunch at 1. The Tokyo investors are impressed. I replied, 1 is perfect. Let's talk expansion. Epilogue. Emily Carrington now lives in a modest apartment on the outskirts of the city, working 2 jobs. The friends who cheered her on at that disastrous dinner all vanished when the money did. Carrington Holdings filed for bankruptcy. Mark Ashford, once the quiet background figure, is now CEO of one of the fastest growing logistics empires in the country. The lesson: never underestimate the quiet ones, especially not the ones you mock at the table, because one day they might own the table. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story if you think this story is justified. Share it with someone who needs this energy and subscribe to Lauren's story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.